Sorry?
Where are you?
Sanibel Island.
Oh, I love Sanibel.
Yeah.
All right, I've got 7 o'clock here, so I guess we should go ahead and start. I'm told that Noah is not going to join us. So this is us. And according to my note, we essentially finished last time with chapter 53 on procurement, 78 on amusements, 170 on yard waste, 174 on sidewalks, and 31 on fire department. And that left us dealing with sidewalk cafes and merchandise, which I think we were just getting to, right? We haven't
Right.
really talked about
I don't think I didn't finalize the sidewalks because it seemed like there was more discussion to be had amongst the group from the changes that we made. So if you think the changes are fine, I will finalize and circulate that, and maybe that will spark some more discussion, or the board can decide that it's fine to go.
I think the part that we kind of settled on, not the whole thing, but the part about requiring people when there's a transfer. I think we got that far, and that's about as far as we got with any kind of discussion. Beyond that, I think is a lot more to look at. Um, you know, as far as repair and snow removal, that whole issue, that's a sticky wicket. And I've been working on the fire grant for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to do the research that I'd like to on that. There are a number of other municipalities who have approached both of those problems, with some different solutions and just saying the owner has to do it. So but I don't know, if we want to just, put in a requirement for when the property transfers and leave it at that until we get further, or package the whole thing together when we, have the chance to really take a deep look at it.
I think I prefer to put it all together, to do it all rather than to do it in bits and pieces. Because I think
yeah,
I think we might as well do it thoroughly. And I think that, I was walking the other day along Milton Avenue where some of the sidewalk was cleared, except they did a really lousy job on it. And I looked up, I mean, they cleared it once and then I guess decided, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to go out and finish up or whatever. And then I looked at the over and there was, like a foot and a half high snow and sludge and a space about this wide. And I got to watch Ray Otten with his two canes trying to make it through that space. And um, then I got to watch him turn and walk down where I knew in front of the buildings. And that's 58, 62, 70 and the National Bottle Museum, where they just did a lousy job. So I think something really has to be done with the central business district. And there has to be standards about how well, there's another building by the school. They just never do it. Or what they do is they do just a terrible job. So I think, we can't, I think we have to come up with maybe a, a separate way we're going to handle the central business district.
Well, if you want it to always be clean and dry, the only way that's going to happen is if we put coils in the pavement or in the concrete. Electric coils that heat it up. Saratoga does that. That's one of their requirements on Broadway, is that, when you repair a sidewalk, you basically rip it out and install coils. And that is really the only way that we're going to, make sure that that doesn't happen.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, Sean. I think we could also, I mean, that's one way, but I think we could also come up with a way that we had talked about last year, where we had, sidewalk districts where we paid somebody to come in and clear it appropriately, and charge the business owners, or figure out how we can financially do that. Have DPW do the streets, but in the central business district, I don't know, Front Street and Milton, from this point to this point, and somebody comes in and takes care of that, clears it up, and drags off the snow when it happens, and we have a contract to do that. And
So,
we collect.
but are you gonna get buy-in from all the businesses?
Well, I don't.
Or are you just gonna impose it?
I think we should talk about establishing it and imposing it. I mean, because we come up with this thing that they want to do it themselves. Except, what do you do with an entity that does just a lousy job? I walk all the time. I mean, I know this, and I know that there are people who do a lousy job and people who do a good job, and the people who do a lousy job do a lousy job over and over and over and over again. So I think we have to get some kind of consistency.
Well, I'd hate to see you imposing some sort of regulation on the vast majority of people who do a decent job just to eliminate a few people who do a poor job.
I don't think
I don't think it's a
few.
few.
I don't think it's that few.
It's a good proportion, and I'm willing to do, collect some of the research and, show what other communities have done, and then we can, have a discussion and say, gee, that, sounds like a good idea. I mean, mostly they do, we could start with the areas that are the most critical. Some municipalities do that. They name the key streets that they want cleared because they're, access to businesses, access to the school, and then they, create a sidewalk district and take care of the snow clearing. I mean, there's equipment you can buy that clears sidewalks, or you can hire an outside vendor to do that work.
Mhm.
I think it's part of, economic development for,
The cheapest way to do that
pandemic's
is
gone, for us to have a clearer path for people visiting the village as well as the people who live here.
Mhm.
yeah, well, if we're gonna get to a point where even in just the central business district, the village is gonna become responsible for maintenance and removal of snow and ice. I don't know why we would contract that out when we could just probably hire staff within the DPW and buy the equipment. In the long term, that's gonna be the cheaper way to go.
Well, I don't know that it would be. I don't, because I think I don't know. I think that's something that's worth looking at, finding out and I don't think we're going to do this year. This is not but we should begin looking at it. We have this discussion we had it last year, and then the snow stops and we forget about it. So I want to do it and set something up and have this discussion and figure out how we do it so we can get it set up for next year. Because I don't also, if we're going to impose something, if we come to the conclusion that we're going to impose something on people, I certainly don't want to do it in the middle of a pandemic. But I think it's a discussion that we have to put to bed. We have to solve this problem one way or another, and we can figure out how we pay for it as well. I'd have to be shown that, I mean, DPW has, they have a lot of work to do. They're the ones who usually go by and take up the stuff that's at the curb on Milton Avenue, but they haven't had time to do it. I don't think they're twiddling their thumbs anywhere.
No, well, it's because they're short-staffed.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, we just added staff. Didn't we add one more person to DPW
No.
recently? Oh, just we replaced somebody?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a cost if to doing this, but there are, a number of municipalities who have decided that it's the best way to go. And they don't do, there may be municipalities, but most of them, don't do every street. But the key streets that are important for people to walk on, to get to places.
Well, I
they
guess
do.
my thought, if we impose this on the central business district, and then we get complaints about off the central business district, where people aren't taking care of it, where now we have the DPW remove it and we charge them a fee. So I guess why can't that work for the central business district?
Because it's not working. It just
Well, it's not
isn't.
working because we don't have staff.
Well,
No, I don't think that's why it's not working. And you know
Well,
something, Paul? What?
I don't either. I agree with you.
I don't think it's why it's not working. I think it's an attitude, and it's also it's a gray area. It's some of these places you go and they can say I did clear it. Yeah, they did, but they did. I mean, it's like a kind of job that a some you know it's a real, excuse my it's a real half-ass job.
yeah. Well, the thing is, with the right equipment, they can be done rather quickly and done well. If you've got one of those machines that basically goes and clears the sidewalk, whereas, some people have great snow blowers and do a wonderful job, and others, use a shovel and do a lousy job, or, vice versa. So,
Well, do places like the central business district, you're also going to, there's going to be, you're going to have a tandem, because you're not going to be able to blow all that snow onto the edge of curb, and when the plow pushes back, that's going to get too big too fast. So if you're going to do that, it has to go into a truck or something immediately,
Yeah.
if you want to clear that. So I guess my thoughts are is, if we're going to hire a contractor to do that, then that means also we have to have parking regulations on snow days where one side of the parking is clear and the other one you
Yeah,
go on one
yeah.
side.
So
on
maybe
those
we
those
do.
key streets, we should have alternate side parking during the
Well,
winter.
hey, if the businesses sign off and say that sounds wonderful, okay.
Well,
just
I
don't see
think
that
it's
happening.
something that, there'll be a public hearing, but we've got to figure it out. And, what I like to do when we're wrestling with some of these code issues is talk to the folks who've already, come up with a solution and see how it's going, and see what their costs are and how they've done it. Where this is not unique to us.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. As far as maintenance, I can see, we can look at some different options. But I mean, are we still talking about the transfer of property?
I think
Requiring
for the
Sidewalk
repairs, yeah.
installation?
Well, again, that's tricky because, we have whole streets that have no sidewalks, and it's not just Colonial Hills, as I found out. We have, or streets that have very little just at the very beginning. And the question is, are those, are we gonna, somebody's in the middle of that street, there's no sidewalk for a good distance on either side, are we gonna say, okay, the house is transferring, now you gotta put a sidewalk in?
Well, I
That's a
think-
discussion.
Yeah, well, we could have the discussion that simply, if sidewalk exists on that street, then you need to comply. If there's no sidewalk that exists on that street, then you don't need to comply.
Yeah, well, but
I personally think if you don't make the first person do it because there's not anyone on either side, then there's never going to be anyone on either side.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying on either side.
Eventually you get it all done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you're going down a street and 3 or 4 houses down, they put sidewalk in, you're obligated. If you're on the same street. If you're on an entire street that has no sidewalk whatsoever, then you're not obligated.
Well,
Because
see,
there are neighborhoods like Colonial Hills and other ones that don't have any sidewalk. So, and
but
who
I can
knows if-
show you some that have a little bit of sidewalk. And
Right.
so what are you gonna do with
isn't
that
that the
one?
whole point of creating this law, is to slowly have people do it and then maybe find other methodologies to fill in those gaps?
I'd
grants?
rather take, and we could discuss this, I'd rather collect the money from everybody and then improve the sidewalks on those key streets. And over time, you know, have at least one sidewalk on one side of every street in the village. That would be
Yeah.
the ultimate goal versus
Well,
one
Liz,
lot here, one lot over there, one lot over there. It just
Liz,
seems
the
that it's going
problem
to take
there
us
is-
100 years to get the whole village done,
well,
or 50
I
years.
mean, I think that's a wild exaggeration.
Well-
I think, you know, it could take us 20 years to get the village done. But that's not, I don't think that's necessarily a poor target. I mean, when, especially what you're implying is a sidewalk tax. So,
It's not a tax,
I mean,
it's an
I don't know.
assessment, the same as a lighting district would be an assessment, or the water is an assessment for, and
I just-
the advantage is that if you do it that way, then you can also charge not-for-profit entities to pitch in as well.
you know, I understand that, but I think also, you're basically penalizing anybody who's put a sidewalk in.
No, you could, municipalities have done this, they've given a credit if anybody has a sidewalk that they put in, and they assume, I think, that sidewalks last about 20 years before they need any kind of repair. And they say if you put one in the last 20 years, then you get a credit. So
So would you
they've
get a credit for 100% of the cost?
if this needs research, I don't have all
All right,
the answers.
Because if it's not 100% reimbursement, then there's a tax involved.
We're talking about two issues that we're not going to resolve tonight, both of
Right.
which require study. One is how to get the rest of the sidewalks put into the village, and the other is how to keep everything clear of snow. In the meanwhile, what we've got in front of us is a decent revision that does a good job of describing the current practice, the current system that we've got set up. And I think we ought to just go ahead and move forward with it and deal with these other things in a more leisurely fashion.
Which one of you speaking? Which local
Which one
law?
have we got? Is this something we created new, or is it the existing code?
I'm looking at the one we're, in theory, discussing, which is Stephanie's marked up version of chapter 174, streets and sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah, see, okay, that was not sent around the second time. That's from the last time, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, I don't have that one in front of me. I didn't think
I
that,
thought we had gone through it and made some tweaks, and
Yeah,
we're going to
I
move
don't,
forward with it like this. And I agree, it doesn't solve those problems, those two problems that we've just spent 15 minutes discussing, but we're not going to solve those two problems in this cycle. And I think this is an improvement of the current local law, and we ought to go ahead and move forward with it and then resolve these other two issues over a longer period of time.
when was that sent out? Because I've got the local laws, 4, 5, 6, whatever in my looking at that, but I don't see.
yeah, it's not in this package. It was out before, so I did not look at it again. So I'm
Yeah,
not
I
really-
I left the changes that we made during the meeting in my computer. I didn't circulate them to any of you, including the mayor, because I thought you were continuing the discussion, and there were some emails that came after the meeting that continued the discussion. So I can take this and I will put it in local law format and then circulate it to everyone. And then if there's need for more discussion, my guess is you'll figure that out amongst yourselves via email, and we'll either punt it to the next one or make the changes depending on how
Can you
significant.
give us just a brief overview of what changes you made from what's the current code? I mean,
There's like 3 pages of red lines, and it's
oh, okay, all right, it's too much.
you guys made them during the last meeting. I didn't make any modifications. I just thought you weren't done with your work, so I didn't bother to put it in local law format.
Okay.
Okay.
'Cause I thought we were still figuring it out.
Okay, but we do want to make, in other words, some changes, but not tackle the whole problem of the snow clearing and news.
Right. Well, the system we've got in place right now is Terry has a form and she takes complaints and she enters them on the form along with dates and times and other relevant information. And then she transmits that information to Jeff and he posts the properties. And they have 24 hours after the posting to clear the property. And if they don't, then we clear it and bill them.
Okay.
And one of the issues that we've been dealing with is, particularly after a big storm, DPW is busy for several days after the storm and doesn't have time to do the clearing of individual lots. So I've been reaching out to professionals just in the past couple of weeks, asking for quotes for what they would charge us per linear foot or whatever to come in during the week after a storm and do the clearing, because I think that would make the system that we're using now much more functional.
You mean if it's done and people actually get charged for it? Yes, it would.
Right.
Right. So it's doing the enforcement. Okay.
So that's improving enforcement of an existing code.
Yeah, which will help.
That code has been clarified here by Stephanie's revisions.
Right.
So we're including that we can.
The other is that people are not reporting places that need to be cleared. So nobody's going to go out and walk or drive the whole village searching for places that haven't cleared their sidewalks. Somebody's got to tell us.
Do we have a
once
digital
they call
form
Terry
on the
and tell
webpage?
us, then we've got a system in place to deal with it.
Yeah. I
Do
mean,
we
one
have
of
a
the
digital
things,
form on the webpage?
not now,
That's
No.
probably would help.
that with the new web page, I know that was something that you could add in where, it was essentially a complaint form for people to go on the website and put in whatever complaint. Now, I don't know if we want to encourage that, but it does, give an easier way for residents to report things like my next door neighbor hasn't plowed his sidewalk.
Well, yeah, you can make it specific for, sidewalks, maintenance, or, snow issues. You don't have to have a general form where they could, basically complain about anything.
Well,
If you made it specific.
Okay, but Larry, so what we're trying to deal with here is, I guess, Larry, I think we're in agreement that we're going to go forward with it, with what we have now. But I think, I do think I would like to look at it again to make the current system more functional. So I would like at least, and we can leave this other thing about sidewalk districts and that kind of thing for, a different day after we've had time for research. So, but then we need Stephanie to incorporate the changes we had into what you were holding up, Larry.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
And that's where I thought we were at the end of the last meeting, except for I thought we hadn't done the sidewalk sales and cafes part.
We had,
thought we
yeah.
thought we had done the rest of them to the extent that we were ready for another revision to look at.
Yeah, we haven't seen
I thought
that red line version yet, right? Because I'm looking at my emails and there's,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So once we see it, we can comment on it.
So I'm sorry, just to make sure that I'm clear on what I need to do. Do you want me to circulate the red line that we did during the last meeting, or do you want
Yeah.
to circulate the final version.
Both.
Well, no, I would just circulate the red line and
And then
wait
see
until
what
we get
changes. Got it.
what we say, gee, this is good, no, though, that, and then you can make it into the,
Oh, we did that at the last meeting. We all sat here with the red line copy and we went through and we said that.
She was making the red line copy as we spoke.
Yes.
I had this in front of me at our last meeting. This was my note that I had prepared for our last meeting.
well, just send it around again and we can react to it. If it's everything we talked about, but my memory's not that specific. But I remember exactly what we agreed on.
Me either, and I apologize for that, but I thought I had everything, I thought we changed it, yes, and we changed it up on the
screen.
screen.
Yeah.
But I don't have, do I or do I not, Daphne, have a copy of that, what was changed on the screen?
Nobody but me has what
Okay,
changed during the meeting.
that's,
And
I guess, right. But if
Yep,
you-
following this meeting, I'll circulate that.
Okay, is that all right?
And I've got it up on my screen now, so if Mayor, if you want to give me access to share this screen when we're doing the sidewalk cafe and other stuff, if anybody wants to see it, it's here and ready because I thought we were discussing it. But we can just move on to the placement of merchandise on sidewalk regulated or the PUD. I've got both things ready for your
Yeah,
comment.
those were the things I thought we were going to be doing tonight.
Yeah.
All right, I will make you the host and then you'll be able to share your screen.
Yeah. Did everybody get the thing I sent out? I'm sorry, it was late this afternoon on the village of Saranac Lake on the sidewalk and display.
Yes.
Yeah. I came across this one and thought it was nice and short and might be suitable for, versus the one that is, I think that was from Albany.
Guys, I'm gonna have to get back out and get back in and put on my thing. This is pointless for me. I can't see any of this, so I'm gonna have to get my tool that makes everything bigger. Because I mean, you could have obscenities up here and it wouldn't make any difference. So let me get out, turn that on, and I'll get back in. Okay? For me, just.
Yeah, Liz, I read the thing from Saranac Lake and I thought it was very unspecific. And I thought the first one that you sent us was much more specific and much more all-inclusive.
Right.
Liz, I didn't receive that.
I sent it this afternoon.
I don't have any
It says
email.
Village of Saranac Lake, and you don't have.
Yeah, I only have Larry's email from today. I don't have any other emails.
Okay, let me send
It's
items.
just 2 pages.
Code workshop. Oops. I sent it to Christine twice instead of to you. Sorry.
That's okay.
When I'm clicking through trustee. Okay, here we go. There. It's was based on, a conversation I had with Sean briefly, and I thought what he said was really made some sense, which was don't make anything more complicated than it has to be. Just allow for there to be clear passage on the sidewalk and don't worry about too much of the rest of it. And I thought this Village of Saranac Lake code was pretty simple.
It was very simple.
And,
But I
and
think also the first one you sent us came from the Revenue Advisory Committee, which means that a committee had done some work on it. So I'm
That
not sure we
one-
want to just toss them and say,
no,
"Oops,
we can look
better."
at it, but actually, as I remember, it's basically somebody else's code. We did not delve deeply into the language. I think if I remember, that's basically a copy of one of the places we looked at. But it is, these regulations vary municipality to municipality as to how detailed they are, how much they regulate.
Well, in general, this one is very specific
Hey, Christine,
and I thought pretty complete.
if there's a way to blow the shared screen up so that you can increase the font size if you need to. If you go under options in the zoom ratio. Yeah, you're muted. I can't hear you.
You can,
Mine is, what I have is pretty much the same thing. It's gonna make it
yeah.
bigger.
No, I've got mine on here and I got it at 150% on the view and it's pretty big.
Is that what I'm seeing, or is that?
Yeah, under where it says you are viewing Stephanie Ferradino's screen,
Yes,
view
right.
options, you can zoom
Right.
ratio it up to 300%.
Mhm.
So that would, I have it at 150 and it's pretty big letters.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the Saranac one in the sense that it's, it's not too specific. I mean, we could get it a little more specific. I mean, first of all, how wide is safe passage? We should have some kind of number there.
Yeah. Usually it's 4 feet or up to
Actually,
5.
Actually, it's 5 feet with, you can
ADA.
have a non-standard feature of 4 feet for like, I think it's 50 feet, up to 50 feet. But typically it's a very small section where you can go down to 4 feet, but typically 5 foot is considered ADA compliant.
Okay. They actually had clears the walk path of 4 feet on this, on the second page there.
Can you let me know which version you want up? I've got both the Revenue Advisory Committee draft and Saranac, so I can put either one up. But
Yeah, why don't you, Stephanie, if you could put the other one up just so we can contrast and compare.
for some reason that one is, oh, show all windows. Here we go. There we go. Now can you see the Village of Saranac Lake?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, a couple of things I saw here was, I think if you look at retail sale events, you want to be specific about goods and merchandise being including food.
Well, here I think they,
They don't have it, they don't have anything separate for food, but that's,
I
No.
thought somewhere further on it said something. Let me look at it.
no, I don't think not that I saw. I mean, this does have the advantage of it being, simpler.
Actually, if you look at the encroachment part, it says encroachments of temporary structures or improvements, including but not limited to planter boxes, seating, arcades, galleries, temporary signs, awnings. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't specifically say food.
Yeah, because what it's saying in section 106-100, retail sales events, and it says this applies to all outside things, and it says outdoor sales of goods and merchandise. So I
Right.
just want to make sure that because what we're mostly talking about here are restaurants, so I want to make sure that merchandise includes food.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't actually have a separate outdoor
Dining, no, they don't, but I don't see any reason why this couldn't work for outdoor dining.
You could, am I muted? No, you could just change this to retail sale events and outdoor dining. And then
Yeah.
just add some language in here about food.
Okay, all right. That works.
So again, how does that work for alfresco dining and you're paying the check outside? Isn't that an outdoor sale of food? I think, I mean, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but isn't that, if we're allowing alfresco dining, aren't we allowing the outdoor sale of food on a permanent basis?
Well, this has a
This has
stipulation of
dates.
a timeline, dates, which I also
In
think,
addition to that, if they're serving alcohol, then we got to involve the state liquor authority in the village. There's a permitting process.
Yeah, we don't know if they're going to continue that temporary, where they allow serving alcohol outside.
We had to apply for a permit.
Yeah, no, but isn't that under temporary rules? We don't know if that's going to continue.
Right, that was a
thought
COVID
that was-
regulation.
Thought that was for to go.
no, that was Larry. Larry was feeding the state liquor authority into submission. We had everybody's applications in on time, so we could have people having a drink at an outdoor
on public property.
table on public property, and
On public property.
and what was not allowed, right, Larry, was you were not allowed to take your drink then to Wiswall Park.
It needed to
Right.
be,
Right.
it needed to be
You
in
had to
front of
have it
or
at the
adjacent.
restaurant. Right, it was specific to the restaurant, and that was a special thing that was allowed for COVID.
Correct.
Okay. Well,
Right.
how did it happen before COVID in like Saratoga Springs and other places?
No. It's like a permanent application that I was filling out. I think the thing that was during COVID was allowing it to be used on a temporary basis,
Right.
as opposed to a permanent application.
But we,
I filled out a permanent application, but only for a temporary period of time.
Understood.
So would we allow our restaurants to apply for permanent outdoor?
I don't see why not, except for a limited period of time.
Yeah, I think, I would extend it past Labor Day, because Labor Day, there's still summer left, maybe up to Columbus Day or
That's what
beginning
I
of
think,
November or
because-
something like that.
because for one thing, Columbus Day, you have the Way We Were car show.
Yeah,
And
I'd
then
extend it to maybe, beginning of November or something like that, or Thanksgiving.
Well,
Then,
Columbus Day is probably long enough. They pulled up shop before Columbus Day.
yeah,
this
they
year.
did. That when given the option, they didn't want to go, but I think we should allow them to go longer than, because who knows, we could get a warm spate and what's going to happen is you're going to run afoul. You have people serving outdoors during the Way We Were
car show.
car show. So if you don't take it to Columbus Day, you're going to be in violation of your own rules.
Yeah, I think it's fine to take it through Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And it's their option if they want to pull up stakes sooner.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, now with these enclosed little, huts, they're going even longer. Some places.
But I
Yeah.
don't know that we're going to allow them to do huts. In terms of
Yeah.
what,
Yeah,
in
that sounds
terms
crazy.
of, because you're going to have the space where people can walk.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, but I think change it to Columbus Day. That's gives them plenty of. But the question here is outdoor sales of goods and merchandise and food. We add food there on a permanent basis is prohibited. So if we're prohibiting it. So if somebody gets, we're allowing them to do it in this time period.
Right.
But they can't get a permanent permit like from the liquor authority and be there year round outside. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so. And we want to put in Labor Day to Columbus Day? And do we want to take out and for not more than one time for 6 weeks during the remainder of the year? I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to encourage like a St. Patrick's Day parade where everybody's drinking and throwing up in our street like they used to in New York City before they banned alcohol for that
Well,
event.
I mean, if you wanted to do, I guess based on an event, like if we had some sort of event during cold weather, they could apply to do it for that particular event, maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Chocolate festival, maybe.
Right,
Oh, I
exactly.
see.
Yeah,
So
So that would be covered by for not more than one time for 6 weeks during the remainder of the year. If you're doing it from Memorial Day to Columbus Day or from Memorial Day to October 30th, then you're going to allow another one time for what is
every
that?
6 weeks, I guess.
I guess,
one time for 6 weeks. So you're going to allow for another 6 week block.
yeah, I think we get rid of that time and just say maybe sanction event by the village, something like that. Or a sanctioned event by the village. So if they already have the application, they can if they want to put something out for Chocolate Fest or any other maybe event that we might have
Mm-hmm.
during the off season, they can do that for that period of time.
All right. But I guess sanctioned, how do you define sanction?
Well, don't we have to approve most events because they need an indemnifier? So isn't that a sanctioned event? I know we approve events, so.
Is this change okay? How about, and during any other times as the trustees may determine? Then
Yeah.
if somebody wants to do something in 2 months, they can come before the trustees and ask.
Yeah, they want to do something before Memorial Day, let's say, because the weather is nice.
Okay.
They
Right.
want to do something.
All
They
right.
just have to come ask us.
That works.
That works. All right. outdoor sales and displays may occur on private property. What's that? Explain to me what is private property? That's not the sidewalk.
No, that's like, the front of the real McCoy. They have out,
Oh, the lawn in front. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
using their own property
I
for
get it.
retail.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I was envisioning, I wasn't expanding my vision. I was thinking of Front Street. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are you allowing them everywhere in the village? I'm just looking at the part, hopefully you can see I highlighted here, retail.
District E, yeah. I think it would be the central business district and the commercial, wouldn't it?
Well, but you get in later on to things where I think it would be appropriate, it would apply in the north end to like where the Ribbon Cafe is and
That's the commercial district,
that's a commercial district?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because we don't allow commercial businesses in other parts, other districts currently.
Okay. All right. As long as that's defined. Okay.
Okay, so those are the standards. Okay.
So should it say outdoor sales, displays, and dining? Instead of outdoor sales and displays and outdoor dining?
Yeah, comma, and get rid of the
Outdoor
first and.
sales, common displays, and dining.
Yeah. More efficient.
Are these, help me out here, are these numbers 106-101, are those same as,
Saranax.
those are set, so
Saranax section
those will
code.
be tied into what hours are, whatever.
Yeah, and I will look to see where this fits in the code and make a recommendation.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Everybody's code is written a little
Right,
differently.
right, sure, yep.
Yeah, 106, 101 is the encroachment table on the second page.
Right.
It'll just be renumbered something different when we renumber the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, all right. So this next one, outdoor sales areas may not take up more than 75% of the front of the building that they are associated with. Okay, so let's think about the next door kitchen and bar. Their outdoor cafe takes up the whole frontage of that building. Are we now then going to limit it to 75%?
I don't see why we should.
Yeah. We could just get rid of that.
Well, maybe we should say something about it shouldn't exceed, it can only do the frontage of their own business and it can't.
Well,
But what if a neighboring property owner's okay with it?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but then, can't we say that? Did we say?
Well, we could say they're limited to the frontage
Of
of
their
their
own building
property
and-
unless they get approval
From,
from adjacent properties.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
To locate on their property. Yeah.
To look, to extend, okay.
Yeah.
What about this one? Does
Well,
this
this-
cover, do you have any businesses that might occur in other districts?
No, but I think some of these requirements ought to be applied to the area we're allowing them, like that they have to delineate what their outdoor, provide a sketch for approval. Don't you think? I mean, some of these are things we're allowing, this summer. Larry, didn't the businesses provide a sketch of where they were gonna put their tables?
Yes, they had provided detailed drawings
Yeah,
to accompany my.
yeah, I
the
think
State Liquor Authority.
that this is not, some of these requirements we should just apply to anybody that's doing outdoor retail and stuff. They gotta show where they're gonna put this stuff and get an approval of that.
Right. Are we gonna have any language that they show that they're gonna have minimum clearance for passage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's on the next, the encroachment,
Yeah.
the table of encroachment.
Does that work? Retail sales, display, and dining application requirements?
Right,
Right,
provide the
Well,
following
we need to think
information.
about who's going to administer this, who's going to issue the permits and take the applications and make sure they meet the qualifications.
That would be the building inspector, wouldn't it?
Could be.
I mean, deals with all the building, on the inside, so why not what they provide on the outside? Make sure there's enough clearance for people to get by and all that.
and this is all gonna be subject to a public hearing, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, because, what we want to avoid, and we really got to be careful with the encroachments, is we want to avoid where people have these, huge displays of clothing or quote unquote antiques, code for junk, on the sidewalk, and it's unsightly and people have to, navigate around it.
yeah. Well, I think the main reason for this law is, for one, it's now illegal to do anything on the sidewalk, but also that we need to ensure that there's clear passage so people can
Right.
get by. So,
Yeah, I mean, in the schedule, we can just say a continuous passage so that, it doesn't snake around.
yeah.
Okay,
I think they need a permit, and it needs to say who the permit application goes to and who makes the decision.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
we're
in
gonna-
the next section on encroachment, it says permit required. But we should put it up front somewhere. Looking good.
What do you think about this part? I'm not exactly sure what it's saying and whether we need it if we've got this up here.
Yeah, I mean, that's repeat, really.
Yeah, 4, I don't think we want anything to do with that, do we?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna put up any kind of structure like the fences and all that, we gotta know that they're doing that.
Yeah, like
Oh,
what
wait.
they have in front of next door kitchen and bar, which is
Yeah.
very nice, makes it look nice, but we should know what it's gonna look like and what it's gonna be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But we should probably take out buildings because I don't think you temporarily put up a building.
Right.
No.
Right. Good
I mean,
point.
that's a barrier. I mean, I could go for barriers. I don't know about structures either. So,
well,
Structure might be like the hostess stand, right?
yeah,
Or
a
a
fence,
rolling cart.
or a fence of some sort. Oh, that would be barrier, I suppose, but
yeah, I assume we don't want them to put other than the umbrellas that they have been putting out.
yeah, that would be under structures, yeah.
The other version had things that had to be removed at night. Do you want that in here? I mean, like next door, you wouldn't ask them to be removing their barriers every night, but in some instances, you do want them to put like a rolling cart of merchandise away at night.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not gonna have them
Yeah.
move all their tables and chairs every time, you know?
Well, why don't we split it as, merchandise you need to basically roll up at every night with the
Yeah.
exclusion of dining areas.
Yeah,
And indicate measures to be taken to limit potential, such measures may include plantings to screen the area or fences to mitigate views from neighboring properties or public rights of way, okay.
yeah.
Ensure a dimensional separation of 10 feet and the provision of a structural barrier between vehicle travel lanes.
We won't do it, our sidewalks and stuff aren't, you know,
It's not big enough to do it,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, no. And anyways, if, we do allow on-street dining, then, that doesn't make any sense. I think the last one is fine. Measures to be taken to alleviate adverse impacts, safe movement of vehicles and pedestrians. They gotta show that they're not creating a hazard.
Okay, now let me ask, how is this going to be impacted if we do something like where we close Front Street Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Is that going to make this, as we did this year? How is that going to be reflected in this, or what in this would not be reflected in that kind of a change?
Well, the only reason we're doing that is because of COVID, correct?
No,
Well,
but people
no.
like it.
People like it, yeah. There
Yeah.
have been a number of people who've asked if we could do it permanently.
Right.
Well, I don't think we have a large enough database to make that conclusion.
Well, I mean, I have a feeling that some of those businesses are going to request that from the village.
Right, but they're not our only constituents.
Well, I pointed out when I passed around the scanned copy of the 1965 master plan, they recommended closing off section of Front Street, making it pedestrian only. So, there's nothing new.
Yeah, right, and that's why we're updating the plan, because, that is older. I mean, I think we need a lot more public input before we make that a permanent condition.
Well, I think,
obviously, but
yeah, one of the things the linkage grant is going to look at is, potentially designing that area so that it can be what they call an open street, which can be modified depending on, certain nights you could put the tables in the street and certain nights you can't, or you can close the street. You can, be very flexible in the use of the street. So, that's coming down the pike. But a lot of people have really liked that on-street dining.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, I think we need a lot more public input, because there's a lot of people also like be able to park along that street as well. So I think we need to get a read on the overall consensus.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, part of what we're going to be doing is some public input for the linkage grant, and so that'll definitely come up.
yeah. So to that end, I just want to make sure that if we got public input and that it says that we do this 3 nights a week and that's a good thing and we do it on a permanent basis, are we going to have to redo this whole section, or is that eventuality covered? That's all I'm asking.
I would think you would have to have something, if it's going to be something we do going forward, there'd have to be some section in here that talked about,
Permanent, okay.
yeah, doing that.
Okay, all right.
Does anybody know what this part means? Encroachment location, front and side street, maximum encroachment distance to what?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure what this is intending.
Encroachment into the public right of way shall be conformed with the standards of table. Encroachment location, front and side street, maximum distance. I think that's the maximum amount of the sidewalk you can occupy, or on the side. In other words, you can take up to 8 feet of space and use it for your displays, etc. I think that's what they're trying to get at there. Encroachment distance. So, yeah. Now we want to, may want to look, is that allow for, Front Street or the social club to use space that they need to,
Is this width?
Yeah, it's basically the width, I think.
Do we care how wide it is as long as there's 4 feet to walk?
Yeah, actually, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So can we just get rid of this?
Yeah.
Can we just ditch this?
I
'Cause I
think
don't-
so. As long, I mean, we don't have super wide areas for folks to occupy.
You can
Right,
make-
and
you can
they're
make
gonna
it
be
10
shown
foot.
on the permit, so if it's too big, the permit won't be granted.
Yeah,
So clear space to curb. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm going ahead. Clear space to curb.
yeah,
Minimum distance to maintain a clear space at all times, so 4 feet.
5, needs to be 5.
no, that's clear space, the walking path. This is an addition to that.
Oh,
And I don't think we could do that because like if you look at Iron Roost, they
Right.
put the
right.
tables right up against the curb.
They have a set of tables against the curb and against the building, and they probably have 5 feet of space to walk.
Right.
But
yeah, but they shouldn't have that arrangement. You
why?
shouldn't be walking through the dining area as your egress. Should be on one side, should be on the curb side.
Because,
Because it creates a linear path. It's easier to navigate. You're gonna have people milling in around that dining area, so you're not gonna maintain a clear space.
well, I mean, they might mill if they're on just one side too. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's not really done anywhere. Um, where you create a middle space in the middle of the sidewalk and then have dining where you're gonna have people going back and forth with food and whatnot. Where if it's on the curb, you're kind of out of the travel, there's less conflict
well,
areas.
I think the way they arrange it is they have, there's the planting, the trees, etc., and then they, use the space between the trees and that people aren't walking where the trees are.
Well, they have to maintain 5 foot of clearance from wherever the tree well is.
Right. That I could see, in other words, you need the 5 foot, but the fact that they can get a few more tables in that space between the trees next to the curb.
I think it's a terrible idea.
I don't see how, given you're basically, if you don't allow that, you're saying that everybody on that side of Front Street, which is narrow, is, can only have, 2 tables or 1 table, across their frontage. And if it's a narrow frontage, that's a very limited amount of outside service,
Yeah,
especially if
I,
you're
well,
not.
I understand that. I mean, but we're limited to what we have.
yeah, but
Yeah, but-
you had said all that really matters is that you leave a clear space of 5
I
feet
said
for
in a
people.
continuous path, a linear path.
Yeah,
Well,
So-
there, you would have it in a continuous linear path.
No, you wouldn't, because if everybody else has it from the curb in, and then all of a sudden you gotta jog to go in between it, between tables.
but there's nobody on that street that's doing that.
So everybody puts tables on the curb and then against the building. And then your clear space is in between those tables.
On that section of Front Street, yeah.
Yes, both the Whistling Tea Kettle.
So from O'Brien's down to there, that's what they do.
The 2 restaurants that are there, which is the Whistling Tea Kettle and the Iron Roost, that's what they do. They have a path of, it's got, I mean, if you want to say 5 feet, then, that's what they have to have, and that might bump it out, but, I mean, disqualify it, but that's what they do. They have a path in the middle, and they have tables on, right at the curb. And then also, up next to the building.
Well, I guess if they can, it seems like we're making it I would like something that was just consistent. And we're not really being consistent. Are we gonna have 5 feet along the curb? Or are we gonna have 5 feet anywhere they want to put it.
Well, we can't do it
There's
against
5
the
feet.
curb because of the trees are there. We have tree wells everywhere.
Right.
But you can stick some tables in between the tree wells.
Okay.
I'd say as long as you got your 5 feet next to those tree wells, then, and it's a
Well-
clear path.
By taking those dining tables and putting them out there, the entire sidewalk has become a dining milling area. That's what I'm saying. And that's why we get a lot of complaints.
Have we
So,
gotten any complaints about the
yeah, I
arrangement?
mean, we've gotten lots of complaints about
Who
there
is
not being
we?
a clear path.
Who is we?
The complaints I've heard about had to do with more of the
What's the
stuff on Milton Avenue.
Yes, that's what I, where's Larry? He
He's
can-
there.
Yeah, be very quiet.
Oh, Larry, have you heard any, have you heard these kinds of complaints? You're muffled. You're
You're
muted.
Yes,
On Front Street?
I yes.
Yeah.
And what are the nature of the complaints? It's that it's too
Not
crowded
enough
or,
room for wheelchairs and strollers to get through.
okay. But if we had 5 feet mandated, that's enough for a wheelchair and,
Correct.
yeah. So let's just put in the 5 feet and then,
Again, I don't think it's a clear passage when you now made the whole area a dining area. I think, I mean, we can do that, but when 2 people are sitting at the tables, there has to be a minimum of 5 feet between the back of their heads. So, I mean, if they can maintain that.
Waitresses and waiters and people walking back and forth. I think that's another very good point that Sean made.
Yeah, I mean, it would be better if it was curbside, your egress. I mean,
in
I
other
guess
words, she put like 2 rows of tables up against the building and then there's 5 feet left. That it's not going to work because
But
of the
there's
tree
the tree
wells.
wells.
So,
well, if it's at least 4 for a minimum distance, we can do that. For those tree wells, you could shrink it down to 4.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. You can say 4 and include the space for the tree so people can walk around the tree?
Right. Well, the way DOT standards are is it's generally standard a 5-foot walk, but you can have a non-standard feature for a very short section. And but it has to be a minimum of 4 feet.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, unless we've gotten, a lot of complaints about, which is basically the arrangement that Iron Roost has right now.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say I've had repeated complaints about that exact location from various people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a documentation, but I didn't think that's how we did things.
Well, I think you
Yeah,
need
we have to find
documentation,
out how-
but, if Larry says he gets written complaints about it, then, or emails, then it's a real thing, and then, she's
Well,
gonna,
no, and I think, yeah, I also, it doesn't mean that what Sean's getting is not real. It is.
no, but I
it's
mean,
just-
that they need to put it in writing somehow in an email or something.
Yeah,
Just
but
so
I,
we
but
can,
I think, Liz, if they're both saying, if both Larry has heard this and Sean has heard this, I think,
okay,
The
yeah.
Okay.
pedestrian always gets the priority.
Except for snow.
except, no,
You're talking to the ultimate pedestrian.
yeah, no, the pedestrian doesn't get.
Yeah.
On a
The
sidewalk.
car gets it. The car gets it.
Okay, all right, so what are we gonna have? So clear walk path, minimum distance to maintain,
clear at all times. So that means you can't have tables against the curb.
Okay,
All
all
right.
right.
Vertical clear area, that's also not a bad thing to put in there.
Correct.
8 feet. So in other words, an awning that comes out over the,
Yeah.
okay.
Or those big planters they put out.
Planters?
Yeah,
Which
one of
planters?
the ones had big planters, and basically the leaves from the plant were blocked half the passageway.
Okay.
And I'm like, you're really not supposed to have that either. So,
Okay. All right, so leaving it this way at 5 is fine?
Guess so. I mean, that's what, I mean, we could put in the exception that Sean said, that it, for the short distance, it can be 4, just to give a little flexibility.
yeah, you could put a asterisk there or a note 1 and 2, whatever.
Huh? I don't quite understand that.
He
Sorry.
says you can have it be 4 feet under certain conditions.
Okay, but if you're
Here?
saying that, then.
No,
are
I
you
think
leaving
right
tables
on
curb?
at the end where that star is, you could,
So if you say that, are you then gonna get tables at the curb?
no, they're not allowed.
Well, are we gonna actually say that then? Because if you're putting in an exception.
No, the exception was to narrow the walking path. It can be narrower if for a short distance, right, Sean? You know
Correct.
that rule. So we should put that in here. That
I'm not sure I'm following what
Me
the
either.
change is.
in the clear walk path section,
Yep.
put a note that is what Sean said.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
say it again.
basically, if there's an obstruction, it could be reduced to 4 feet at the point of that obstruction.
Obstruction like the tree?
Yes, why
Like
don't
a
you put in
tree.
an example, such as a tree? Yeah.
Yeah. Tree, sign,
Etc.
etc.
Well, I don't know if you want to say sign.
No, even
A
Yeah,
natural.
Yeah, like a sandwich board.
How about telephone pole?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of the way, if you put sandwich, is that the same thing?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as a tree.
How about a permanent obstruction?
Permanent, right. Permanent obstruction, such as a tree. This space can be reduced to 4 feet. Because, I mean, if you're gonna take up tables at the curb, I don't think you then want to fill in with sandwich boards at the curb, right?
So, am I taking this out, the clear space to curb?
no, I guess we're keeping it to prevent them from putting tables
Yeah,
there.
so it's gonna be 5 feet. Clear walk space path, minimum distance to maintain clear at all times 5, right?
Well,
So,
actually,
am I-
we don't need it. If do we need to say no, nothing against the curb? Let's say it's an area where it's a wider sidewalk and we've got 6 feet clear walking space and there's still space between the tree wells. You'd allow tables there, wouldn't you?
Sean,
Again, the point is to keep from the curb to wherever the dining area is, the pedestrian path.
Okay.
Not create the pedestrian path in the middle of the dining area.
Well, then we should say that. Clear space to curb, minimum distance clear at all times to be whatever that space is.
5 feet.
5 feet.
so you want this to be 5 feet instead of 4?
Correct.
Okay. So do we even need the clear walk path if this is here?
Well, no, yeah, clear space to curb. There's got to be some way to say this that's clearer.
Yeah, because if we say the curb 5 feet, then they could say, well, if it's a 2-foot tree well, we still have to say, we could say the clear walk path is also got to be 5, and then you put the note in.
Yeah, that's what we have. We have the
Right,
clear
yeah,
walk-
I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of saying it twice, but what the clear space to curb does is say where the walk path is gonna go.
Why don't you just put in that the walk path can't go between tables somehow?
Right, you could put that in, but
Yeah. Then you know.
but wouldn't that be in the code, not in the table of standards? The pedestrian walkway shall start at the curb. Shall be curbside. How about that?
No, that, I have to say, if somebody says curbside, that says to me, oh, well, we could be in the street. I think. From the curb.
No curbside, does it really?
And extend 5 feet.
How about be located next to the curb and extend 5 feet?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Next to the curb. Okay. And extend 5. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but you might want to say horizontal. I'm serious. I just.
Horizontally, yeah.
Or 5 horizontal feet.
And then do we take this out? Because you just,
Yeah.
If you're gonna say in the other one, and maintain a minimum of 4 feet adjacent to permanent obstructions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can take that out. I think. Yeah, you've got it covered. You got 5 feet from the curb, and you say if there's a tree or a telephone pole, it can be 4 feet.
I do like the language that says clear walk path. Can you incorporate that in that up there somewhere? The pedestrian clear walk path is to be located. Because I think
Or
that,
a clear pedestrian walk path.
is walkway okay, or it needs to say path?
walkways, I guess.
Walkway
Okay.
is fine.
To be located next to the curb and extend horizontally. But actually,
Oh, and shall be clear at all times, so we don't,
well, you can say that the pedestrian walkway is to be located next to and a clear walk path of 5 feet. You know, because pedestrian walkways are next to the curb and
shall be clear at all times.
extend 5 feet. Well, what you're really trying to get across is that the 5-foot area should be clear. Okay, next to the curb, extend. And a 5-foot clear walk path. No, not up there, down below it, after the and.
And, okay.
Well, we say clear at all times. Doesn't that
Okay.
mean clear?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It shall be clear at all times. Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. And then we got the 4-foot
Right.
little
The
thing.
pole and the,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Ugh, just doing this one. This law writing is tiring.
Tell me about it.
Just think, had we taken the more complicated law that was like 10 pages long?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything in that one that we want to add to this? That you remember, Stephanie, maybe that you thought was something that we should cover? You're muted.
The appeal. So what happens if the permit's denied?
Mm,
And violations. For
Yep.
offense.
And we're gonna try, so we're gonna do, is it gonna be an annual permit?
I would think so.
There's a whole section in the other one about the application for the permit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it make sense for me to go through the other one and just pull some language and pop it in here, and then you guys can look at it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that.
Yeah, that's good. So we want an annual permit. Okay, okay. We're gonna charge for these permits, correct?
Of course.
Yep. And a fee to be established by the trustees from time to time.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We've got
update
that
from
language.
time to time.
Well, I mean, businesses are using public space. And this processing and gotta pay the building inspector to, keep them in compliance.
You got to pay for the permit process.
Yep.
Okay, we done?
With this one, yeah.
We
I don't think we're not gonna cover a whole lot more tonight, are we? Because this is getting.
Well, we haven't gotten to the DVD yet, and I thought it was fine personally. I didn't really have anything
Well,
other than
It needs to be fleshed out quite a bit.
yeah.
It needs
I think
specifics.
it's vague. This is a stopgap measure in case something comes in before we get our zoning
Well,
revised.
Right. And if we allow something that we completely didn't want to because it wasn't written tightly enough,
yeah.
you still have to live with it, even though, so.
And I mean, if you read New York State law, it basically, I get the feeling that we're putting the cart before the horse.
What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about, it says the PDD, these laws provide that these local governments may utilize zoning legislation to implement procedures and requirements for PUDs in furtherance of the town's comprehensive plan and zoning provisions. So we don't want our current comprehensive plan and zoning provisions, in furtherance.
Yeah.
I mean, the PDDs, that's what I meant by putting the cart before the horse. Without a good comprehensive plan, at the very least, to follow, it doesn't make sense to do a PUD. PUDs are usually used after you've got, the guidance of a comprehensive plan that you wanted. And our comprehensive plan is 25 years old, and I don't believe, that we think, anybody thinks that it's the vision that people want for the future of the village, and particularly, the zoning.
What are you gonna do when a developer comes in and wants to buy Maplewood or wants to develop Angelica, and we have nothing in place to allow them to do that? We're gonna tell them to go away and cool their heels while we do a comp plan, and then a zoning law, and then a PD, and then maybe he'll come back to us and talk to us again in
Well, the
3
fact
years.
is, no one's
The
been,
whole thing is stopgap.
well, yeah, Sean?
Yeah, well, my thoughts on this is if you want to allow someplace like Angelica's to develop the existing structure based on the existing zoning, I mean, I guess I don't know why we wouldn't just do that. It would be
They've got
whether
acres.
zoned for, they want to develop into something that it isn't zoned for.
I didn't hear what you said, Larry. What did you say?
They've got over 6 acres there.
Yeah, well, First of
They're
all,
not just going to come in and fix up that old building. They're going to develop the whole thing. They're going to have condos. They're going to have businesses. They're going to have open space.
do we have somebody coming to us?
No, but what if we do?
Well, it would be, Larry, it would be a phased development anyways, that would be over years.
Yeah. And from at least my past observations, that a PDD is not a quick thing, because unless it, you know, I mean, just look at some of the PDDs that have been proposed in Ballston where they've gone forward with them. They've taken years between, and they're expensive for the developer too. And so
Condos?
I think it's only going to attract, you know, well-funded developers, you know, who can pay the lawyers to fight it. And we're going to end up in that whole thing. And in that amount of time, we could, you know, I did talk to Kate Maynard about this topic. And she said that places, you know, you can use a PDD, you know, without, you know, getting into some of the trouble that the town of Ballston has gotten into by having, you know, too much
Well, the
growth.
language is too broad.
Yeah, but those
Okay, 2 weeks ago-
PDDs, these PDDs done in places like Ballston Spa, where they really want something very specific, are very detailed. They say exactly what you want. But I think she had another suggestion, which I thought was pretty good. And her suggestion was, why don't we focus on this area where we expect development to happen, and focus the vision first and get that done and get the rezoning done. Let's not do the whole village together. Let's just get that piece done quickly.
In terms of the what? The comprehensive plan? and
In
the-
terms of the plan, in other words, segment the plan to, you know, really what we're talking about is the business district. And let's get the vision of that, you know, with all the stakeholders and stuff, and then get to the zoning of this part of town. And then we can do the rest of the village later. And she said, you know, with a professional planner, we could expedite the process. And I think in, you know, optimistically, in that amount of time, you know, no one's gonna come and get a PDD and get under construction in less than a year or two. And in that
Right, can I
amount of
just point out 2 things, please? Number one is, when I suggested that we go ahead with our zoning for the central business district based on the economic development plan, your objection was that it didn't cover the whole village and we had to do the whole village. My second observation is 2 weeks ago, sitting right here in this same Zoom meeting, I raised the concern about what would happen if somebody came into one of these large sites and wanted to develop it with our current zoning. And you all agreed to ask Stephanie to spend time writing up a draft PDD regulation. She did that. She presented it to us. It's here. And now you're telling me you don't want to talk about it.
No, well,
No,
for one, you only proposed redoing zoning. You did not propose doing the comprehensive plan piece of it for the central business district. You just wanted to give rezoning to a committee and have them come back with new zoning. And that I disagree with. I think this,
Could we take this PDD and basically rewrite the language to make it specific about those 2 properties, Larry? So that we're basically waiting on development, but if somebody comes in on these 2 large properties, they would have to go through the PDD process?
I think we would probably want to add some other vacant area downtown. We might want to add Rick. But the concept works for me if it works for Stephanie.
I'm not exactly, it almost sounds like you're proposing to rezone areas of the city that, or the village that could utilize PDDs. And I think that's a mistake.
Well, PDD is rezoning. It is a method of rezoning.
Yep.
So there's no getting around it. And I think, and it says, you know, that it's supposed to reflect the comprehensive plan and the zoning that exists. And our comprehensive plan and zoning is not what we want reflected.
Then we change language to allow for it to vary from the comprehensive plan if you guys and the planning board deem that that makes sense.
I don't think we can do that.
What?
We can't do that. It's supposed to reflect it in law. It says it's supposed to be in furtherance of the comprehensive plan and the zoning. How can we negate that?
If you're telling me that your comprehensive plan is 25 years old, hasn't been looked at, hasn't been revised, and you allow in this to deviate from those standards for good cause shown because your plan hasn't been updated, I think you're fine.
But we're in the process of, first of all, we're in the process of redoing the comprehensive plan. And what I got confused about with this, and some of this is, for example, one of the things it says light industry. I absolutely don't think, for me personally, we want to approve anything that allows light industry, you know, on the Angelica site or the Richter site.
It depends on, but let me just jump in here before you proceed with your next. It depends on how you describe light industry. So I just sat in on an application where light industry was an artisan doing woodworking.
Yes, but it could be something
So
much
you
worse.
might actually, absolutely, it depends on how you define it. So that might be okay, or we can just strike it from here. If you don't want light industry, let's cross it out here.
Okay, but let me finish. You know, when we were talking about this and about you bringing forth this PDD, I mean, the last thing I remember, I didn't remember a hard vote. I don't remember a hard vote. Oh, how many are we saying we're going to do this, and how many are we going to say we don't? What I remember was Noah saying, well, we don't want to stop development, you know, if we're going to have some coming forward. So, you know, I'm willing to look at this, but this is, I find this, if we were ever going to go forward with something like this, it's got to be a lot more, it's a lot clearer to me than what's going on. It's referring to zoning, which we're in the process of changing. So, or we're going to be changing. So, and it seems to me it gives a lot of power to, I'm not exactly even sure where the power is. It is the planning board, it is the village board, or, you know, it was the back and forth was a little bit confusing to me. But before we know exactly what it is we really want to do, in other words, if we write this up, we're really telling everybody else what this area should look like. And I don't know that we
To take that on.
I disagree with that. You're not telling them what you want. You're saying be creative and we'll judge you whether this is appropriate for our village or not. And the power shift, this is the way PDDs are done across New York State. It always, the end vote is always with the legislative body, you guys, because you're changing the law. You're in essence creating law specific, and that's always a village board, a city council function. It's legislative. But
5-person board, and you're asking for a super majority. So the only way you get, so that means if one person disagrees.
Nope, that's only, supermajority is only triggered, and again, I've done these across the state for 24 years. Supermajority is triggered only where the planning board's recommendation and what the village board wants to do are at odds.
Yeah.
So if the planning board gets the application and they say, this is fantastic, we love it. They put a big red bow and they tie it up and they punt it over to you. And you're thinking, this is nuts. We're not putting a dump in the center of our village. Then you have to have 4 votes
Yeah.
to deviate from what the planning board recommended. Or if the planning board said, God, this thing is awful and you guys really loved it, that would take 4.
Yeah, the thing is, it puts too much power in the hands of the planning board because it takes a supermajority on the village board to overturn it. And it puts too much power in frankly, in the planning board and the board right before we're about to go embark on a plan where we get the input of the residents and the stakeholders on what they want the village to look like. I think it's kind of, like saying, well, that's all right. You do your thing on what the comprehensive plan, what you really see is the vision of this thing, but we're going to go do this over here and we'll decide. It just, to me, it feels wrong. It feels wrong. I mean, I think a PDD could be used in a case where you have a comprehensive plan that gives the vision you want, at least, and somebody comes with, something that's a little different, but we haven't done that first step of really allowing the citizens of this place to say what they want.
Well, won't they be saying it during the public hearing?
No, I mean, that's already done when the time you come to a public hearing. And it's expensive.
I think this meeting is done then, because that was the last item on the agenda and it's nearing 9 o'clock. So thank you very much for your time and I'll see you next Monday.
Okay.